Welcome to the Discipline Handbook for the coming season. The purpose of this handbook is to give clubs operating at county level key essential information around the disciplinary process. It's not designed to replace the FA handbook, but is designed to give you easy to follow information. We hope you find the booklet useful, and we wish you well for the coming season. One of the important things within a disciplinary process is transparency. And it's taking that theme that this season we've made it clear that county football associations for personal hearings in serious cases are required to produce written reasons. Those written reasons will explain the rationale for any decision that's made within a disciplinary process. Last season, you may have noticed one of the changes was to reduce the time taken for clubs to appeal decisions of county FAs. The intention of that change was to quicken up the appeals process, and clubs were required to submit an intention to appeal within 3 days of notification of the result. However, listening to feedback over the year, it has been clear that that timeline has been too tight, and the FA have listened to that feedback and have amended the regulation this year so that it gives you a little bit more time to lodge an intention to appeal. Clubs now have the opportunity to lodge an intention to appeal within 7 days of the original decision being made. Last year, you may recall that the FA introduced mandatory minimum sanctions for serious offences committed against match officials. Of a particular note was the 5-year mandatory minimum for assaults on match officials. This, however, did not take into consideration the age of the person committing the assault. The FA has this year amended the regulation that will account for young players committing an offence where the mandatory minimum sanction for a player under the age of 16 will be a mandatory minimum of 2 years. It should be noted that they are minimum sanctions, and it is still open to a panel to increase that sanction dependent on the seriousness of the offence. The FA has this season considered the cost of administration of the disciplinary process. There is significant administration that goes on within the county office, particularly surrounding sendings off and misconduct charges. As a result, this season the cost of the administration for send-offs and misconduct charges has risen to £15. The cost of administration for yellow card offences will still remain at £10. You will see from the start of this season that the FA has simplified the reporting process for red card offences. Referees are now no longer required to write a description of the offence, as this has sometimes led to confusion during the wrongful dismissal process. For those clubs entering the FA Cup, the FA Trophy or the FA Vase will see a change in the reporting of yellow card offences. This season, yellow card offences in those competitions will be competition specific and will not count towards the normal totting up of the 5, 10, 15 caution count that currently applies in league matches. Instead, the format will follow similar to the Champions League and the Europa League, where a player who receives 2 yellow cards in either of those competitions will be subject to a 1-match suspension for that competition. One of the key changes this season will be the expansion of the temporary dismissal pilot, otherwise known to many of us as sin bins. We will go into greater detail on that process later on in this publication.